You wake before dawn, the room still dim with uncertainty, and wonder where the first step of this demanding day might be. A hush lingers, as if heaven itself pauses, inviting surrender from every restless plan. The earliest breeze brushes your face, and your listening heart hears sparrows rehearsing dawn's first anthem. Crimson light, still shy, sketches direction along the eastern horizon, even while questions linger in shadow. In that tender glow you remember that God, mighty and intimate, stands ready to help you walk boldly into whatever unfolds. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. These lines invite rest instead of rush. They turn you from frantic planning toward the steady heart of the planner. What burden or desire needs placing into His hand before daylight spreads? Now, as your heart grows still, we step into the quiet corridors of His presence, where beginning is a person, not a plan. You stand at the threshold of today, like a traveler scanning a fog-veiled valley, mind racing through possibilities that feel more like pitfalls than paths. Bills wait on the counter, messages blink on screens, and somewhere beneath the clamor a quieter ache wonders whether you are enough for what will soon demand your name. Even the coffee has not finished brewing, and already a tide of questions rises. How will you resolve the lingering conflict? Where will strength come from if another door closes? How do you proceed when yesterday's map no longer fits today's terrain? Yet, while shadows spread, another reality dawns. The one who spun galaxies sits beside you. You may feel small, but His listening becomes an open sky where anxious breaths can lengthen. Notice how heartbeat slows as you speak honestly about your fears. Vulnerability is a doorway He never leaves unattended. He does not scold you for worry. He gathers it like seed that will sprout into testimony. Psalm 4:6-1. Here God is both refuge and strength, an ever-present help. The verse does not erase turmoil. It reveals a presence sturdy enough to outlast it. Ask yourself, what if uncertainty is not an enemy, but an invitation to lean against that refuge? Allow concerns to surface without judgment, naming them the project that feels too big, the medical results still pending, the loneliness masked by busyness. Speak each one aloud if you can. Words placed in the light lose power to haunt corridors of the mind. Picture handing them across a quiet table to the one who interprets sighs as clearly as sentences. Now pivot from cataloging needs to recalling the character of the listener. Remember moments when help arrived unannounced. A friend's text at the perfect hour, an unexpected refund erasing debt, a stranger's smile lifting gloom. These small histories are breadcrumbs marking a faithful guide who specializes in the impossible. Let gratitude's warmth loosen the tension in your shoulders until posture itself proclaims you are carried more than you realized. Envision angelic sentinels at every doorway of the coming hours, commissioned to signal your steps even when the route feels tangled. The map is real though invisible. The guide draws near though unseen. Trust does not require a blueprint, only a hand placed in His, fingers interlaced with grace. Choose one promise to anchor you. Perhaps He will never leave you. Perhaps grace is sufficient. and let it echo with every inhale. Tomorrow's answers grow in the soil of today's trust, so linger over that promise a moment longer. Watch how fear shrinks when exposed to light. Finally, release a whispered assent. Led me. That simple prayer turns the key to a doorway beyond uncertainty into quiet confidence. The valley mist has not lifted entirely, but you are no longer immobilized by it. You are walking with the author of dawn, and each step is already written. Move forward. Heaven has already marked today with hope. You loosen the fists you did not realize were clenched, feeling blood return to palms that once gripped every outcome. The dawn outside is pale gold, yet inside you still hold fragments of yesterday's failures like shards that cut each time you remember them. Control seemed noble, planning, predicting, pushing, but it has grown heavy, a suitcase you drag across gravel roads. Here, in this hush before traffic hums, you sense a different rhythm calling, the steady pulse of surrender, neither defeat nor passivity, but an active yielding to love that knows the hidden turns ahead. You inhale, letting the air rise into lungs as a quiet confession. You cannot architect every blessing. You cannot police every threat, and that admission is not shameful, but freeing. Picture a river swollen by mountain snow, its current sure of where it must travel. Stones beneath the surface feel turbulence, only to be smoothed by it. Likewise, you can allow the present flow of God's purpose to shape rough edges, rather than resist. With each exhale, name what you release. The outcome of a conversation, the timing of provision, the image others hold of you. Speak them plainly. Ambition, regret, fear, and watch their weight lift like startled birds into morning light. Surrender is not absence, it is exchange. Your frail blueprint for his vast horizon, your shaky lantern for his sunrise are one. Peter 5:7. Casting is an act, not a mood. You throw the whole burden, not fragments, because he does not ration his care. The verse invites decisive motion, hands outward, heart unburdened, trusting that what leaves your grip enters his. Now sense how posture changes when worry no longer curls your spine. Shoulders settle, breaths deepen, vision widens beyond self-made limits. You begin to recognize invitations disguised as interruptions. A child's spontaneous laugh, an unexpected detour, a colleague's subtle plea for kindness. These moments are not obstacles to your agenda. They are guideposts along a surrendered path. Having laid down rigid plans, you gain flexibility to follow gentle nudges. Writing a note of gratitude, pausing to pray for someone crossing your mind, choosing silence over argument. Obedience becomes less about rule, keeping and more about responsive love. Let imagination wander to the Israelites gathering manna. They could not store tomorrow's portion, only gather what the dawn revealed. So too, you embrace daily dependence, trusting fresh grace will arrive with sunrise. If scarcity whispers that relinquishing control will leave you empty, remember cedar forests fed by unseen springs, strength rising from sources beneath the surface. Gratitude now buds where anxiety once sprawled. You marvel that surrender, which felt like loss, becomes the doorway to abundance of soul. Before moving on, craft a simple breath prayer into your hands. This day, whisper it in rhythm with heartbeat, until it anchors thought. Every time anxiety circles back, repeat the prayer and visualize laying concern on an altar glimmering in morning light. Flames of divine kindness consume the offering, smoke ascending as testimony that you are heard. Rise from this inner altar lighter, yet stronger, for nothing surrendered is ever wasted. All returns refined and multiplied in ways only divine imagination can design. You settle deeper into stillness, like a lake whose ripples finally rest when wind releases its grip. Around you, early sounds begin. Kettle hiss, distant motorbike, a dove's slow coo. Yet inside you cultivate a hush more profound than silence, an inner clearing where divine breath stirs the leaves of thought. The world trains you to broadcast opinions, to multitask, to fill every gap with noise. But heaven speaks by gentle degrees, syllables softer than dew touching grass. You steady attention the way a candle's flame steadies a dark room, neither forcing clarity nor fearing shadows, simply waiting for subtle glow. Picture Elijah in the wilderness, braced for thunder, but discovering God in a low whisper that bent his sorrow toward hope. You replicate that posture now, eyelids relaxed, spine aligned, palms upturned in receptive quiet. Distractions parade like merchants at market, unfinished emails, breakfast choices, yesterday's comment you wish you could edit. But you let each pass without negotiation, returning to breath's rhythmic tide. Listening is spiritual hospitality. You clear cluttered thresholds so the guest may enter unimpeded. Instead of reciting petitions, you host presence, trusting that awareness itself becomes intercession. As 1 Kings 19:12, the voice was not in wind or quake or fire, but in a gentle whisper. This verse reminds you that revelation often hides inside simplicity, waiting for an attentive ear. With senses tuned, you discern textures in the quiet, a scripture nudging memory, an image of someone who needs encouragement, an insight about yesterday's confusion. Do not rush to analyze, first acknowledge. Inspiration is fragile when handled roughly. Cherish it like a seed you carry in warm hands before planting. Note impressions in a journal or speak them softly. Naming affirms reality. Sometimes guidance arrives not as sentences, but as peace that floods a previously anxious corner of the heart. Trace where serenity pools. That gently lit place often marks the next step. Consider birds scanning skies for shifting air currents. They conserve energy by aligning with wind rather than battling it. Likewise, you conserve spiritual strength by aligning choices with the whisper you perceive, sending that apology, declining an unwise invitation, rearranging schedule to honor Sabbath margin. Obedience rooted in listening bears fruit others label wisdom, though you know its source is quiet dependence. Over time, discerning grows easier. Practice sharpens perception, the way night trains eyes to recognize constellations once invisible. As morning brightens, guard this cultivated hush. Commit to brief listening pauses throughout the day, before meetings, meals, or messages sent. Whisper a simple invitation. Speak, and I will heed. Then attend even if only 10 heartbeats long. Divine counsel rarely competes with clamor. It waits for willingness. End this moment by placing hand over chest, sensing the steady drum gifted since birth, and respond. Here I am, That phrase echoes prophets and servants across centuries, and it situates you again as one ready to receive, ready to act, ready to love from instructions heard in holy quiet. You rise from quiet listening into a landscape, tinted rose and coral, sensing the shift from merely hearing God to following the gentle contours of His counsel. The sky widens like a map, each streak of color hinting at roads not yet walked. Without the weight of unchecked desire, your spirit feels lighter, ready to notice signposts once blurred by hurry, a passage quickening memory, a conversation recalled with sudden clarity, a creative idea blooming unbidden. Guidance often arrives in such ordinary raps, humble enough to be missed unless expectancy sharpens sight. You embrace the posture of a pilgrim whose next landmark may be revealed only after rounding the bend, trusting not the clarity of route, but the clarity of the guide. Imagine strolling a forest at dawn. Sunbeams thread through branches, illuminating patches of trail while leaving distant turns in mist. You do not stand frozen demanding full disclosure. You step onto each brightened stretch, confident more light will greet you ahead. Likewise, divine direction is progressive, tailored to cultivate dependence rather than self-reliance. When you obey the first nudge, to forgive, to pause, to give generously, the next instruction surfaces like a fresh stepping stone across a stream. As these stones appear, the path begins to make sense in retrospect, though foresight remained partial. You discover that the journey itself is apprenticeship, shaping you into someone who can shoulder larger assignments when they come. Isaiah 30:201, the promise of a voice behind you underscores intimacy. God does not bark orders from a distance. He walks so near that direction feels like breath on your shoulder. This companionship reframes guidance as relationship, not mere information. Now consider practical ways direction might unfold today. Perhaps a verse refuses to leave your thoughts. Treat it as coordinates, pausing to explore its relevance. Or a name surfaces repeatedly. Send encouragement, for that small obedience may unlock unforeseen blessing. Even delays, traffic, long queues can reposition you for providential encounters. Stay attentive to holy disruptions. They are divine synchronizations rather than accidents. Carry a small notebook or phone memo to capture insights before they evaporate in business. Writing grounds revelation, preventing it from drifting like morning fog. Courage, however, must escort revelation. Knowing the way and walking it are different disciplines. Fear may whisper that obedience risks comfort or reputation. Counter that whisper with memory of past outcomes, doors opening, peace reigning, provision arriving when you trusted. Each testimony becomes a cairn marking God's reliability. Share these stories with others. Spoken witness solidifies your own conviction, while lighting pathways for friends still wandering in doubt. As sunlight grows bolder, lift your face and offer a simple declaration. I will go where you point. Let the words linger on your tongue until resolve crystallizes. Direction given is grace. Direction heeded is worship. Today, expect intersections where a choice of kindness over convenience, integrity over expedience, or patience over frenzy shapes the day's legacy. At dusk, you will trace the subtle choreography, See how every yes to divine whisper threaded seemingly random moments into tapestry. For now, walk the brightened stretch before you. More guidance will greet obedient feet. You feel the soil beneath your feet firm, yet springy, as though the earth itself anticipates your footprint. Dawn is no longer a rumor of color on the horizon. It rests on your shoulders like a gentle mantle, clothing you with calm confidence. The questions that troubled your sleep still exist, yet they no longer paralyze. They become signposts, reminding you that adventure flourishes only where mystery is allowed to breathe. Having surrendered control and tuned your ear to whispers of grace, you lift one foot, then the next, embodying an ancient truth. Obedience is motion, and motion releases fresh strength. Courage, however, is not loud bravado. It is deliberate momentum born from interior assurance. Picture a lioness gliding through tall grass. Silent, steady, unfazed by rustling distractions. Recall a fledgling eagle leaping from a jagged nest, wings trembling yet upheld by unseen thermals. Boldness believes that lift will meet leap. You adopt that poised stride into office, classroom, kitchen, marketplace. Your routine may appear ordinary to spectators, yet every step resonates in realms unseen. Heaven records the smallest act of faith with joy louder than thunder, for walking forward with God turns hallways into corridors of influence. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous, do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. See Joshua 100 going. The sentence is a directive, not a suggestion. Boldness draws power from companionship, not personal armor. Wherever includes corridors, commute, and conversation, no venue lies outside his width, you promise. Now take inventory of places you once tiptoed: the tense meeting, the uncertain diagnosis, the strained relationship. View them as arenas where light longs to enter. You do not arrive wielding perfection. You carry presence, and presence alters atmosphere. Even silence can broadcast peace. A sincere smile can recalibrate a room's temperature. Discouragement may hiss that your influence is negligible, yet seeds are small before becoming forests. One compassionate word, one principled refusal, one whispered prayer behind a closed door can redirect a life's trajectory. Maintain connection while moving. Just as a diver keeps a lifeline to the surface, you keep breath prayer humming. Guide my stride. When crossroads appear, pause long enough to read interior gauges. Does peace expand or constrict? Follow peace even if logic stammers. Divine wisdom often looks like folly until outcome unfolds. Should missteps occur, grace reorients like a compass snapping back to north. Shame holds no authority to ground you. Momentum partnered with humility keeps you nimble, able to pivot when the spirit signals a course correction. Celebrate progress, however modest. Record moments of unexpected favor, a long-awaited reply, a breakthrough idea, stamina beyond usual limits. Rehearse them aloud on the journey home. Testimony cements courage for tomorrow. Evening will find you richer in faith than morning found you, not because obstacles vanished, but because you walked through them accompanied. Now straighten posture, fill lungs with crisp air, and declare within, today I walk boldly, not as one guessing, but as one guided. The road may narrow, climb, or curve, yet each segment gleams under watchful eyes. Angelic hosts pace beside you, and the one who awakened dawn vows to complete what he begins. So advance, daylight has only begun to unveil the wonders, prepared for your willing steps. You pause on the porch as daylight spills across tiled roofs, a soft hymn of cicadas weaving through hibiscus leaves. The morning no longer asks frantic questions. Instead, it beckons you to linger, to breathe in honey-warm air, and believe goodness will precede every task. You recognize that trust is not the absence of action, but the atmosphere surrounding action, like the unseen wind beneath a swallow's wings. Yesterday's calculations have become today's quiet confidence, because you have tasted the reliability of the one who measures oceans in his palm. Leaning against that certainty, you let shoulders drop, noticing how tension evaporates under a sky brushed clean by dawn. The rhythm of trust is gentle. Inhale gratitude, exhale concern. You thank God for currents of mercy already flowing toward unseen needs. You release the urge to supervise outcomes. Plans remain, yet they rest on an altar rather than in tight, clenched hands. As you prepare breakfast, even mundane movements, pouring water, buttering bread, become liturgy, each task a reminder that provision surrounds you in ordinary textures. You are grounded, not by predictable schedules, but by presence, steady as the earth turning beneath your feet. Consider sheep in verdant pasture. They graze without glancing at the sky to calculate rainfall, confident the shepherd studies clouds on their behalf. So you enter conversations, deadlines, and commutes clothed in calm that confounds hurry. Trust informs tone. Your voice carries steadiness where others carry strain. You answer questions slowly, listen longer, and choose kindness over cleverness. All because your heart rests on a rock no tremor can unsettle. Remember past midnights when fear claimed the final word. Yet light still arrived, bills were paid, healing unfolded, relationships mended. Each memory is a stone in a personal altar, spelling faithful across seasons. Revisit those stones now, tracing their edges with inward thanks. Testimony fertilizes present trust, as rivers are fed by countless mountain springs. You understand more than ever that security is not found in perfect circumstances, but in perpetual companionship with the shepherd of dawn. Carry this ease into the bustle ahead. When delays stretch patience or news unsettles, return to your inner porch. Picture yourself resting against God's heart and whisper, "I trust you with this." The sentence may feel small, yet it is a key turning in celestial locks. Peace will follow, guarding thoughts like sentinels of light. At day's end, you will marvel that rest, once mistaken for idleness, guided each step with hidden strength. Your beginning was God, and your ending will be gratitude. Everything between can safely rest in His keeping. Sun stands fully risen, and you stand within its promise. Notice the steady beat in your chest, evidence of love sustaining life without request. Let that rhythm remind you that even unseen hours ahead are already cradled by grace. Ask, where can I carry this calm, so another soul may breathe easier? Resolve to let trust shape words, pace, and choices. Picture handing every unknown to divine hands, then walking away lighter, ready to bless. Remain still for a moment. Let silence speak hope